So, hi guys, today's video we're going to do the summary of chapter 2, which is network protocols and communication. So, let's start. So, there's a figure of human communication which is message or signal or the transmitter and transmission medium which one you're going to use is either laptop or through wall, then signal receiver and message or message destination. So, for the computer, communication is the message or the message source, the signal or the transmitter that you use, transmission medium and receiver or the signal and the message destination. So communication fundamentals is a network can be as complex as devices connected across the internet or as simple as two computers directly connected to one another with a single cable. And anything in between, network can vary in size, shape, and function. So, however, simply having a wired or wireless physical connection between end devices is not enough to enable communication. So, for communication to occur, device must know how to communicate. So there's rules establishment for the communication. So there are rules or protocols must be followed in order for the message to be successful, delivered, and understood. So protocols must account for the following requirements: an identified sender and receiver, common language and grammar, then speed and timing of delivery, and confirmation or acknowledgement requirement. So why would you need an identifier sender and receiver? Because it's if someone talk to you with no identity, then you must think that that's spam or a fraudulent. Then the common language and grammar, then if you use not the same common language, then you can understand each other, and if correct grammar too, deliver the message correctly. So speed and timing of delivery. So there's a, there's a time that you don't know that you have talk fast and the timing of the delivery of your message is not accurate as that. Then that's it, the rule establishment. So message encoding. One of the first steps to sending a message is encoding. So encoding is the process of converting information into another acceptable form for transmission. Then decoding reverses this process in order to interpret the information. So message formatting and encapsulation. So when a message is sent from a source to destination, it must use a specific format or structure. So message format depends on the type of message and the channel that is used to deliver the message. So letter writing is one of the most common forms of written human communication. For centuries, the agreed format for personal letters has not changed. So in many cultures, a personal letter contains the following elements. So an identifier of the receiver, a salutation or greeting, the message content, a closing phrase, an identifier of the sender. So, message size. Another rule of communication is size. So, when people communicate with each other, the messages that they send are usually broken into smaller parts or sentences. So, these sentences are limited in size to what the receiving person can process at the time. An individual conversation may be made up of many smaller sentences to ensure that each part of the message is received and understood. So imagine what it would be like to read this course if it all appeared as long sentence. So it would not be easy to read and comprehend. So likewise, when a long message is sent from the one host to another over a network, it is necessary to break the message into smaller pieces. So the rules that govern the size of the pieces or frames communicated across the network are very strict. So they can also be different depending on channel use. Frames that are too long or too short are not delivered. So message timing. There are rules of engagement for message timing. Access method. That means when someone is able to send a message, then flow control, timing also affect of how much information can be sent and speed that it can be delivered. Response timeout. If a person asks a question and does not hear a response within an acceptable amount of time, and the person assumes that no answering is coming and react accordingly. So, message delivery option. A message can be delivered in different ways. Sometimes a person wants to communicate information to a single individual. At other times, the person may need to send information to a group of people at the same time or even to all people in the same area. So, protocols. The rules that govern communication. A group of interrelated protocols necessary to perform a communication function is called a protocol suite. So implemented by host and networking devices in a software, hardware, or both. So protocol stack, content layer, rules layer, and physical layer. So protocol suite din the content layer where is the cafe. So conversational protocol suite is the use common language, then wait your turn and signal when finished. Then the physical layer is protocol suite are set of rules that work together to help solve a problem. So uh, network protocols can define a common format and set of rules for exchanging messages between devices. Some common networking protocols, hypertext, hypertransfer protocol or HTTP, transmission control protocol or TCP, and internet protocol or IP. So figure 1 show how the message is formatted or structured. Then the figure 2 is the process by which networking devices share information about pathways with the other networks. In figure 3, how and when error and system message are passed between devices. So figure 4, the setup and termination of data transfer session. And then the protocol interaction, which is communication between a web server and web client, is an example of an interaction between several protocols. So the protocol shown in the figure is the HTTP or Hypertext Protocol is an application protocol that governs the way a web server and a web client interact. Then the TCP or Transmission Control Protocol is the transport protocol that manages the individual conversation. Then the Internet Protocol is responsible for taking the formatted segments from TCP, encapsulating them into packets, assigning them to appropriate addresses, and delivering them to the destination host. And Ethernet is a network access protocol that describes two primary functions, so the communication over a data link and the physical transmission of data on the network. So protocol suite and industry standard. A protocol suite is a set of protocols that work together to provide comprehensive network communication services. And the protocol suite may be specified by a standard organization or developed by a vendor. Then the transmission control protocol or the TCP or internet protocol or IP protocol suite. So the individual protocols are organized in layers using the TCP IP protocol model. So application, transport, internet, and network access layer. So for the application layer, DNS or the domain name system translates domain names such as cisco.com into IP addresses. So the host configuration is a bootstrap protocol that enables a disk-like workstation to discover its own IP address. Then the IP address of a bootstrap protocol server on the network and a file to be loaded into memory to boot the machine. So boot key is being superseded by DHCP or dynamic host configuration protocol. So dynamic host configuration protocol dynamically assigns IP addresses to the client station at startup. So allow the addresses to be reused when no longer needed. Then the email. Simple mail transfer protocol is enable clients to send email to a mail server. Enable server to send email to other server. And then Post Office Protocol version 3 of 3 enables client to retrieve email from a mail server. Then download email from the mail server to the desktop. So Internet Message Access Protocol is enabled to clients to access email stored on a mail service and contains email on the server. Then the file transfer. So the file transfer protocol that includes the enable the user on one host to access and transfer file to one and from another host over a network. So a reliable connection-oriented and acknowledged file delivery protocol. Trivial file transfer protocol, a simple connectionless file transfer protocol. Then the web. The Hypertext Transfer Protocol is a set of bridges for exchanging text, graphic image, sound, video, and other multimedia files on the World Wide Web. So, Transport Layer Protocol is the UDP or User Datagram Protocol is enable a process running on a host to send packets to a process running on another host does not confirm successful datagram transmission. A transmission control protocol enables reliable communication between processes running on separate hosts, reliable acknowledged transmission that confirms successful delivery. So Internet layer. So Internet protocol or the IP receives message segment from the transport layer package message into packet, addresses packets for the end-to-end delivery over an internet network. Network address translation translate IP addresses from a private network into globally unique public IP addresses. So Internet Protocol support, Internet Control Message Protocol provides feedback from a destination host users about errors in packet delivery. So routing protocols often shortest path first, link state routing protocol, hierarchical design based on areas, open standard interior routing protocol, enhanced interior gateway routing protocol. Cisco proprietary routing protocol use composite metric based on bandwidth delay, load, and reliability. So network access layer is address resolution protocol which is provide dynamic address mapping between an IP address and a hardware address. Point-to-point protocol provides a means of encapsulating packets for a transmission over a serial link. Then Ethernet defines the rules of wiring and signaling standard of the network access layer. Interface driver provides instruction to a machine for the control and specify interface on a network device. So the TCP and communication process. Then open standard encourage interoperability, competition, and innovation. They also guarantee that no single company's product can monopolize the market or have an unfair advantage over its competition. So the Internet standard, you have here the Internet Society or ISOC, Internet Architecture Board or IAB, Internet Engineering Task Force or IETF, Internet Research Task Force or IRTF, and Internet Corporation for Assigned Name and Numbers or IPAN, and then Internet Assigned Numbers Authority or IANA. Then we have Electronics and Communication Standard Organization. We have the IEEE or Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, then EIE or Electronic Industry Alliance, then the TIE, the Telecommunication Industry Association, and the ITUT, International Telecommunication Union Telecommunications Standardization Sector. So we are going to the summary of NetHackad for the chapter 3, which is Network Protocol and Communication. So here you have the data network are a system of end devices, intermediary devices, and the media connecting them. So for communication to occur, this device must know how to communicate. So this device must comply with the communication rules and protocol. TCP/IP is an example of protocol suite. Most protocol are created by standard organizations such as the IETF or IEE. So, the Institution of Electrical and Electronic Engineering is a professional organization for this in electronic engineering and electronic fields. ISO, the International Organization for standardization is the largest development of international standard for a wide variety of products and services. So the most widely used network models are the OSI and TCP/IP models. So associating the protocols that set the rules of data communication with a different layer of this model is useful in determining which device and services are applied at specific point as a data passes across LAN and WANs. So data that passes down the stack of the OSI model is segmented into pieces and encapsulated with addresses and other labels. So the process reverse as a piece are encapsulated and passed up the destination protocol stack. So the OSI model describes the processes of encoding, formatting, segmenting, and encapsulating data for transmission over the network. So the TCP/IP protocol suite is an open standard protocol that has been endorsed by the networking industry and ratified or approved by a standard organization. The Internet Protocol Suite is a suite of protocol required for transmitting and receiving information using the Internet. So the PTU protocol data units are named according to the protocols of the TCP/IP suite. So data segment, packet frame, and bits. So applying models allows individual companies and trade associations to analyze current network and plan the network of the future. So here's the summary of the chapter